at all times.
Good.
No, that's not good, Frank. There's no smoking on board our tour at any time. And fourth, be prepared for just about anything, including loud noises, fire effects, sudden tram movements, and the possibility of getting wet. That's right, if you're sitting in a blue seat this afternoon, you're probably going to be getting wet, and that's right, they're all blue. That being said, make sure you keep your camera safe but accessible, because there's going to be some great pictures on our tour today. Now we are leaving the studio far behind us and taking you directly into the heart of the studio, where the big names come to work every day, including myself. Yes. But speaking of big names, I should introduce you to my co-host. She can be seen on ABC's The View. It's Miss Whoopi Goldberg.
Welcome to the Universal Studio Tour. So how do I look? Okay, fine. You're saying too Hollywood? I say no. Because if other studios can have a line or a mouse or something, what is wrong with an Oscar-winning movie? Besides, I know all about this place because I shot my first movie here with Steven Spielberg. Right here on the Universal backlot, the biggest and busiest fantasy factory in the world. And did you know that more movies and television shows have been shot on this lot than any other place in the world? And today, you're going to get to see where it all happened. But before we get too far into the tour, I got to give you some of the setup for our story, or what we in Hollywood love to call the backstory. Universal got its start in 1912 when visionary Carl Laemmle bought his movie company West and opened Universal Pictures. On March 15, 1915, Mr. Laemmle invited the public to visit his studio, and the Universal Studio Tour was born. You see, Mr. Laemmle believed that movies should make people laugh, or cry, or sit on the edge of their seats. And for the last century, Universal has been doing just that. A century. Lenny, can you believe that? Oh, this is Lenny, my chauffeur, and I'll give you the inside scoop on what's really going on in Hollywood. Are you ready? You're nobody around here unless you have a golf cart.
Now we are entering our front lot now, which is home to 35 sound stages, and a great example of that is on your left-hand side with stage 12. It's the largest in the world, and being one of the largest in the world, it's been home to some of the largest sets in the world. On your left-hand side is Soundstage 25, and is one of the busiest sound stages on our lot because it is home to CSI Crime Scene Investigation, starring Marg Hellenberger and Lawrence Fishburne. Now this is what we call a closed set, meaning it is only open to cast, crew, and invited guests. However, next time you're at Universal, be sure to look into our VIP experience, which allows you to become one of those invited guests and have the opportunity to walk on and explore actual sets used for filming. Now coming up on your right-hand side is our oldest soundstage. It was built during the silent film era for the movie The Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces, in his most famous role. Being built during the silent film era, it is the only soundstage in Hollywood that is still not fully soundproof. Since it was built, it's been home to some pretty creepy creatures throughout the years. Now this area of the lot is where we filmed, as I said earlier, Meet the Parents, the third installment, Little Focker, starring Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller. And coming up on your left is Soundstage 27, which is where they recently filmed The Land of the Lost, starring Will Ferrell, based on the TV show of the same name. And speaking of television, our TV history goes back 70 years with the 1939 New York World's Fair opening day ceremony marking our first broadcast. Since then, we brought you some of your favorite TV shows. Now, Universal is part of NBC Universal, and this media powerhouse consists not only of Universal, but Sci-Fi Channel, USA, Bravo, Telemundo, Universal HD, Universal Sports, CNBC, MSNBC, the Weather Channel, Oxygen, and NBC.com. With all of those stations, we've brought you quite a few TV shows throughout the years. The great of that is coming up on your right-hand side at Soundstage 44, is where we film NBC's hit show Parenthood, starring Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls, and Craig T. Nelson from Coach.
Hey, oh!
Yeah. Yeah, like you were saying.
When we were young, we were small, but we didn't know.
Oh, I'll call you later now.
When you were hurt, you would smile, so you didn't show it.
Now these buildings coming up on your left-hand side, they're all very similar. They all look the same. They are our production bungalows, and they used to be some of the dressing rooms for Hollywood's biggest stars, such as Lucille Ball, Doris Day, and Rock Hudson. Now they are our production bungalows for our TV shows and movies. This is where the magic happens. This is where, if you're an actor or an actress, you definitely want to get to one day, because it's where they decide what the new blockbuster is going to be, what the new TV show is, and more importantly, who the new it girl or guy will be. Now, you never know who you're going to see out here on the front lot. There are literally stars everywhere, so if you keep your eyes out, and I do believe that there is a star coming up on our left-hand side, and it's Mr. Potato Head. I know he's taller in person than he looks on the big screen. Well, he's standing out in front of Hasbro Productions, and they are in the works of bringing some of your favorite board games to the big screen. This is also the home of Illumination Entertainment, and they recently brought you the new animated movie, Despicable Me. And here is the film's producer, Chris Meledandri, to tell you more about that process.
Hi, I'm Chris Meledandri, Chairman and CEO of Illumination Entertainment. Our production team in Los Angeles, a staff of over 200 animators in Paris, and artists from around the world are working on the highly anticipated 3D CGI feature, Despicable Me, starring Steve Carell, which will be released in theaters everywhere this summer. It might surprise you, but the initial process of creating a computer-animated film has very little to do with computers. Once we have the script in place, our artists storyboard the film. The next step is to record the actors who will be lending their voices to the characters. Then, the computer animation process really begins. It takes 24 frames of animation to make just 1 second of finished film. For a feature film like Despicable Me, that works out to nearly 130,000 frames of animation, which can take 3 to 4 years to complete. So, I better get back to work.
Knocked over!
It's so fluffy! Despicable Me.
That is Despicable Me, which recently came out in movie theaters. Now, as many of you know, probably, on June 1st, 2008, we were hit by a devastating fire here at Universal, which burned down 4 acres of our historic backlot. And what you are going through now is our newly rebuilt and revised London Square and New York Street. So you guys are some of the first people to actually get to see these streets completely finished. It took only 2 years to complete this, as you can see on your screens overhead, the timeline of it being built. 2 short years to get all of this done, and there's no skimping on detail here. Everything is done to the T. We have 4 theaters here, each one representing a different time era. So if you need a 20s theater, we have a 20s theater. We also have a more modern theater. Now, we have our Brownstone Street coming up on your right-hand side, and before the fire, quite a few movies filmed there, such as Bruce Almighty and The Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie. Now, if you guys notice, all of the fire hydrants and light poles and all of the street signs, well, they're all fake. And they can be picked up and moved wherever they need to be for whatever film is filming, and plugged into outlets on the floor and the concrete so that they actually look like working light posts and all of that. So it's all very detailed here. We also have real working manholes with actual steam that come out of them. And you see, our old New York Street was all just facades, meaning only the front and side of the building was usable. There was no interior. When we rebuilt, we asked some of the famous filmmakers in Hollywood what we could do to make it easier easier for them to film, and they asked for interiors. So all of the buildings around you have actual interiors that are absolutely stunning, guys. They're absolutely gorgeous. The apartments I would live in if they would let me. So one of the famous directors we actually spoke to about the rebuilding of our New York sets was Steven Spielberg, and he's only one of the legendary directors we've worked with over the years here. Another is Academy Award-winning director Peter Jackson.
It's the original King Kong that made me want to direct movies. I saw that movie on TV when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I wanted to become a filmmaker. I like films that just take you away from your real life and sweep you up in adventure. Kong literally does that. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters and creatures from, you know, prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island, and it's great to have you along for the ride. Now, we have created this 3D immersive experience, so you're going to have your glasses ready. Don't put them on yet, but just have them in your hand because we're about to return to Skull Island.
When we get to Skull Island, we'll be interacting with King Kong in a way like never before. It's kind of like an extension chapter of the life of King Kong brought right here to Universal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Skull Island.
Has lived here for hundreds of years. I'm so sure.
Okay, glasses on, everybody. We're back in Skull Island.
The world's largest 3D screen, standing standing over 40 feet tall and 180 feet long and utilizes some of the most advanced technology in filmmaking today. It was created by Peter Jackson and the team at Weta Digital. The team at Weta have won 5 Academy Awards for such movies as The Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Lovely Bones, King Kong, and Avatar. Now, you won't be needing your 3D glasses anymore throughout the tour, but hold on to them, but don't wear them because they will give you a massive headache. And the world is already in 3D, so you don't really need them. So now we are going to take you and show you some of our famous picture cars here at Universal, and some of these cars have become just as famous as the actors driving them. Take a look. Nearly every car you see on the screen above your head is going to be coming up on your left-hand side. Starting with one of our cars from the Fast and the Furious, followed by the Duesenberg from the Mummy. If you notice the front of the Duesenberg, there is a hitch on the front of the car, so it can be pulled behind another one, and the actors can focus more on their acting than their driving. We also have the Ferrari from Magnum PI. Don't get too excited. It is a dune buggy frame with a Volkswagen engine and a fiberglass Ferrari cover. We have the Mule from Serenity, which is made completely out of foam. That is so it can be attached to a device called a gimbal, which lifts it up in the air to use motion control technology. We also have one of the 5 DeLoreans used from the Back to the Future trilogy. They bought 5 DeLoreans. When they got them, they realized they couldn't fit a camera inside, so they had to cut one in half to fit the camera in. So really, only 4.5 DeLoreans were used in the making of Back to the Future. Now, as I was saying earlier about motion control technology, the mechanical arm called a gimbal lifts these cars up into the air to do those impossible scenarios that you see in the movies, such as the Fast and the Furious. And we are going to take you inside Special Effects Stage 55 in a minute and give you a presentation of how we use motion control technology with our cars, Karma and Carnage. If you take a look at your screens, you'll get a prep for what you are about to see.
All right, fire them up!
We're on the set. Let's see the bullet hits. And go. Smoke. Go. Fire. Go. Okay, we're clear for a full run through. All systems checked. This one's for real, guys, so watch out. And action.
Take a bow, boys. Do you have any other moves you want to show us? I thought perfect example of motion control technology cars, and they're every filmmaker's dream because they take precise direction, never miss a mark, and never ask the question, what is my motivation? So now we're going to take you from the mean streets of Tokyo to a jungle just off the coast of Costa Rica.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
That's right, we're going to take you and show you some of the set pieces used in the filming of Jurassic Park: The Lost World, including the mobile lab from this memorable scene with Julianne Moore and Vince Vaughn. coming up on your left-hand side. We also have dinosaurs in cages to show. Well, we had dinosaurs in cages, but I don't know what they... Oh! So as you can see, nothing is ever truly extinct in Hollywood, and there are talks of a fourth Jurassic Park coming to life, so keep your eyes out for that. Now, speaking of Jurassic Park, if you remember, it was always raining in those movies, which made it just a little bit more creepy. And well, here in beautiful California, it never rains, so we have to create our own weather. And well, why am I telling you about this? I have access to America's favorite weatherman, Al Roker. I'll let him explain it a little bit better than me.
Hi everybody, here's today's forecast for the Universal Backlot. It's going to be sunny and dry at 6 Points, Texas. Cool and cloudy in Little Europe. Expect snow and sleet on New York Street, and we've got a high chance of fog and precipitation for Skull Island, Amity Island, and Isla de Blanc. That's your forecast for today. Now here's a look at what's going on.
I don't know what I was talking about, but I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any flash flood here today. But what we are going to show you is how we create rain for the movies. Now, we have these sprinkler systems set up around the set that shoot the water up into the air so that it falls down to the earth naturally, as you can see right here. Now, it doesn't cover all of the ground, just in the eye line of the camera, just what the camera sees needs to have rain on it. And just to make the water a bit... Okay, the rumbling's not normal. I'm sure it's nothing. Anyway, to make the water more visible for the camera to see, we add powdered milk to the water, just to add it a little bit more visible. Because it sounds like it's getting closer. Maybe I was right? No, I'm positive I was right. I believe there are thousands of gallons of water coming towards the trim as we speak. Take cover. Oh, looks like Al and I played a little trick on you guys. That wasn't a real flash flood. That was a result of thousands of gallons of recycled water being plunged towards the tram towards you. So we're going to take you to another part of Old Mexico now. And this part of Old Mexico was recently used in Paramount Pictures' Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, starring Harrison Ford. This doubled as Peru. It also was in a movie starring Russell Brand called Hops, which is coming out spring 2011. So keep your eyes out for that. Now, we're going to cross the border from Old Mexico into 6 Points, Texas. Now, nearly every single country star has moseyed down these streets at some point or another, including Hugh Gibson, Audie Murphy, Jimmy Stewart, and, well, of course, the Duke, Mr. John Wayne. But, you know, I'm going to let my co-host tell you a little bit more about the fascinating history of 6 Points, saying as she filmed The Color Purple on these exact streets.
Did you know that more movies have been shot on these streets than any other spot in the world? Now, during the silent film era, they could shoot up to 6 movies at the same time, one on each one of these 6 streets. That's why it's called 6 Points, because each street had its own bank, its own sheriff's office, its own saloon, and its own hotel. Now, it turns out that this town ain't big enough for both of us. So get on back onto your tram stagecoach thing and get the heck out of here. Long.
Oh, we're getting, Whoopi, we're getting. So like you guys notice the doorways on the buildings on either side of the tram. Some of them may appear a lot taller than normal and some a little shorter than normal. Well, that wasn't a mistake. You see, some of our famous cowboys weren't as tall as they may have appeared on the big screen. So we would stand them in front of a shorter door frame so they would appear taller than they actually were. Same word for our damsels in distress. We would stand them in front of a taller door frame so they'd appear just a bit more vulnerable. Now, if you turn around and look at the buildings that we just passed as we go around this corner, you will see they are true facades. There is no interior to any of those buildings, just a side and a front for filming. It's all about illusion, and there's a great example of that with this strange-looking contraption coming up on your left-hand side. This is our underwater tank. Now all we have to do is fill it up with water, throw a few actors in there, and shoot from the hatches on the outside, keeping, most importantly, the camera dry. Take a look at your screens. You can see how we used it in Dragnet, starring Tom Hanks. We took you through the virtual world of Skull Island, which was created completely with computer-generated imagery. While the film King Kong was famous for its computer animation, it used special effects that had been around since the birth of filmmaking, including 800 miniature sets, one of which is going to be coming up on your left-hand side of the SS Venture pulling into Skull Island. Now, Peter Jackson couldn't find the exact replica for the boat, so he had to create a miniature of the scene you see right above your head. And this is the exact eye line that Peter Jackson had while filming the movie. As you can see right here, a video of him filming the exact scene you just saw on your screens. So these contraptions you see on your left-hand side are props. A prop is anything touched or held by an actor. And here at Universal we have one of the largest prop departments in the world coming up on your left-hand side in front of the tram. Now it grows daily as productions close, because every time a production closes we get their props scanned back into our prop department. And the swords and shields you would find inside of there would go great in this next area. This is the Square of Warriors, and it was used in Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus. This doubled as Rome. Later on, it doubled as the city of Gomorrah in The Scorpion King, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And as we go around, if you look to your right-hand side, all of these buildings over here were used as the fictional country of Genovia in Disney's The Princess Diaries 2, A Royal Engagement, starring Julie Andrews and Anne Hathaway. Now, guys, I feel like I need a break. I feel like we should go on vacation. Let's go to Rome or Paris or, I don't know, anywhere. Barcelona. Well, we can do that here because we are going to Little Europe. Now, Little Europe can be any country in the world that we want it to be. All we have to do is change the language on the signs. Now, many movies have filmed here, such as all three of Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, don't get too excited. Yes, Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom did walk on these streets, but just stay calm. We also had Angels and Demons, starring Tom Hanks, film here, and Night and Day, starring Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise. All of those filmed here, as well as an episode of Heroes. This doubled as a city in India. Now, you can't talk about Universal or even Little Europe without talking about monster movies, saying as, well, Universal did invent the genre, and it all began right here in Little Europe. These are some of the oldest sets still standing here, and it all began right around this corner on your right-hand side in the Court of Miracles. This is where every movie monster got their start. It's where Dracula lived, where Frankenstein met the villagers, where the Hunchback of Notre Dame lived. It all happened right here. Take a look. As I said, this is where Frankenstein and Dracula got their start. Well, Dracula was our first big monster hit here at Universal, starring Bela Lugosi. He was offered the role of Frankenstein, our next hit, the monster in Frankenstein, and he thought that, well, the monster didn't have enough lines for him, and he said any extra could play that part, and he turned it down. Well, they didn't get an extra, but they did get a B-list actor by the name of Boris Karloff. Karloff always sympathized with his monsters. He thought that, well, maybe because he sympathized with Frankenstein just a little bit more than the others because it took 4 to 6 hours to put the makeup on for the role, as well as the costume weighed 50 pounds, causing him to lose 20 in the making of the movie. Now the street we are going down now is our Denver Street, and it is another one of our Western streets. They recently filmed All About Steve with Sandra Bullock here, as well as Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler. Now this is where all of those famous Western brawls happened, and we never get to go down this street, so this is kind of exciting. Every Western brawl happened pretty much on this street that you've seen in Westerns. And if you notice, they're always thrown through a window or have a chair